This video, we will talk about how to use parallel arrays. So when you heard about parallel arrays, that means we have multiple arrays. But we say they are parallel arrays because they contain related data for two or more arrays. What does that mean? For example, I have 30 students in the class. You all have your own ID, your name, your quiz 1, midterm exam, final exam. So that's why for each array, remember we said one array only can contain one type of data. So that's why here when I want to store ID, name, and other grades, so I need to have multiple array. But those array actually they have different data type, but they contain related data. What does that mean? Because the subscript or the index is used to the related array. For example, for the index 0 will represent for one specific student. So for the name index 0, that represent his name. ID index 0 will represent his ID. So the same thing if I have quiz array, final exam array. So the index 0 will represent for the specific student. So that's why here we say the elements from different array, but at the same subscript, or we say the same index, they are related, or we can say belong to the, we can say they belong to the same person or student. So those array may have different data type because remember one array contains one data type. So we have multiple array. Those multiple array will contain different data type. So after you understand the parallel array, that's in the future we will make the parallel array. Actually we will do is the object-oriented concept. But we will talk about that in the future. But now if we want to have a multiple data belong to the same person or student, or in our example, we say employee, you will see we will create multiple array. We're using the same index or subscript to use to the related data. So let's see one example like earlier I told you. I have 5 students, for example, in the class. So each student have their ID, and they have their course average, then have their grades. So here when we say the course average, that means their numeric grade. So the course grade is the letter grade. So that's why here we have a constant number is the size for the student. So you can see here is number of students. You see, if here I have more students, I can just change. For example, now maybe we say I have 30 students in a class. So then I need to have the student ID, numeric grade, and the letter grade saved. So that's why I create 3 different arrays. So the first array ID, the data type will be int. So then you will call this array is ID. So then we have 30 students. So the size is 30. So then I have numeric grade, I call average. So numeric grade will be double data type. The same thing, this array will have 30 data. So then the letter grade will be we call grade. So then the same thing, I using the size is 30. So here you can see here I have continue. If you have more information, right, you just need to create more parallel array. So then when I want to display all the information one by one, I was still using a regular for loop. So I'm using a regular for loop. So then I start from I equal to 0, I less than the size. So then I plus plus. So you see we just see our student ID, average, and the grade. So then we finish in one line. So here you can see why we better using the for loop instead of the for each loop. Because the for loop, I only care is the index. So using this index, I can apply to all different parallel array. So that's better we're using the for loop. Because if I do the range-based loop, then I need to have the range-based variable. But you see here, I have 3 array. But the range-based for loop, they only specific 1 data type and 1 variable. So that's why they for 1 array only. So they cannot do for the multiple array. So here, if I want to display the content from my parallel array, then I'm using a for loop. So you can see here the index I is very important. The same index I represent for one student, their ID, their average, and the grade. So here is a simple example. Then we will really see that's inputting the regular code. So you will see the example 6, we have parallel array. So this time we will work on for the employee. So if you have a company, so then we have number of employee. You can see here, if in the future your employee become more, so then you see you just need to change the employee number. So then the same thing, each employee, they have their working hours weekly. They have their pay rate. For different employee have different working hours and different pay rate. So that's why we have 2 parallel array. So then you have hours for the int, so pay rate for the double. So the same thing you see here, we can ask the user to input our work and hourly rate for each employee. So please enter the hour work by this total employee and their hourly rate. So the same thing we can using a for loop to ask for the user input. So that's why they will prompt to the user say, please enter the hour work by employee number. You see now here we have the employee number. So the user will know which employee, maybe they all have their number. So then we can enter the correct hour working hours and the hourly rate. So after we get the user input, then we can calculate the salary pay for each employee, for example, if that 1 week. So then the same thing for each employee, we need to have another for loop. So then we have the gross pay. So your total payment on your paycheck will according to your hour work and the pay rate. So you see the same thing because the index control for the parallel array. So we can get the right index for the right value for the specific employee. So then we can display the output. So you can see the output also in the next line or next page. But one thing is, remember, I always want you to run from the IDE. So that's why we see the example from the Cloud9. So post your video, so that's why we can go to see on Cloud9 or your IDE. So here is our example 6 I opened from Cloud9. So you can see here we define 2 parallel array. And here I have the constant number for how many employees. Of course, if you want, you can change. For here, for example, because I want to enter something, I don't want to enter so many value to display. So maybe I just change the employee become only 3. So then in the first for loop, we prompt to the user for the input for each employee, their working hours and the pay rate. So then in the second for loop, you can see here, we calculate the gross pay equal to the hours times the pay rate. So we can display. So that's why make sure you run the program to see that the output is what you expect. So that let me have your for loop displaying the screen. So then we see we can run the program. So you see they ask you to enter 3 employees. So the employee number, first one, maybe the hour is 20. So the rate is 20.5. So then the second employee. So you just enter the number 1 by 1. So then afterward, you will have your display. And earlier, we also set the 2 decimal digit will display. So that's our parallel parallel array for the employee example. So like I say, actually you can have this example, we only have the hours and the rate. If you want, you can add more parallel array. So that's why here, after you have this example, I want you to do the exercise is, how about we modify the example 6. I want you to see, can you add 2 array? So this 2 array, I want you to have employee name and their bonus pay. So ask for the name for the employee to update the name array. So that's why you will have, in the first for loop, we will add the employee name. So then at the end, when you calculate the gross pay for each employee, you also need to add the bonus pay, because hour times rate plus bonus pay is the gross pay. So can you do that? So pause the video to see, can you work on that? But one thing actually earlier, I forgot to show you this page. So that's why we can see here, you see that's the parallel array. You see we have for different employee. So then you see your hourly array and your pay rate array. So you can see the same index stay for the same employee. So what you need to do now is, I want you to add the name as an array and the bonus pay as another array. So how we can modify like this. So if you still need the time, so pause the video and think about that. And read carefully in the PowerPoint file how I show you. Because usually in the video, maybe I talk too fast. You need some time to read the content for the PowerPoint. So that's why you need to pause. So that's pause the video. So then after you start again, I will show you how to add the 2 array. Okay, so here is the 2 array I want you to add, right? So that's why I just copy over. I copy that, so I go to my Cloud9. So that's why here you see I just add 2 array in the definition. So then we declare we have a string data type. So you can see the string, they didn't show the keyword. That's because you need to include. Oh, no, sorry, string, because the lowercase string is for C++. So then you need to include string. So then here is for the name, employee name. So then here you can see the bonus pay, the same thing, the size is the same. So then here, oh, I need to go back to the 5 because this one I used the initializer. So I give you the 5 data. So we change the size back to 5. So then we want the user also enter the hourly rate for the employee and also the name. So that's why here, that's get. We copy over again. That's I need the name. So the name for each employee. So the array name is names. So that's why I put the names. So that's why here we can ask the user to enter their name and the hourly work and your hourly pay. So afterward, when we calculate the gross pay, we need to have the hours times the pay rate. And don't forget, we add the bonus pay. So the bonus pay array name is bonus. So the same thing. For different index, I need to include the index. So that's the employee. Gross pay for each employee will including the bonus pay. So make sure you run the program to see if that's correct. So here, since we have 5 different employee and 5 names, I just show you the first one. So we just say for the first one, then we have the working hours, then we have the pay rate. So then you have the next employee. So you just need to continue to, after you finish, enter the information. So then of course at the end, they will give you the result.